Here we are with the new Italian car set to come to the market. With revised looks, technology borrowed from Sauber Formula 1 efforts, more power courtesy of Alfa Romeo's tuner Alto Delta, and more, the new Alfa Romeo Giulia GTA and GTAm variants made a real splash at the 2020 Geneva International Motor Show. Wait, what? Alfa Romeo had been teasing an even hotter variant of the Giulia Quadrifoglio for some time, and they finally delivered with something that seems to be aimed at the recent BMW M4 GTS and Jaguar XE SV Project 8. In my opinion, it looks really cool and will probably be phenomenal to drive with a great soundtrack. One thing I feel that hasn't been addressed yet is that it appears Alfa Romeo went with a sticker for the Quadrifoglio badge as a weight-saving measure. But the big question here in the United States has been this: will the car be coming to America? A spokesperson for Alfa Romeo said that they are looking at their options. This video is my 2 cents on 4 wheels. Specifically, my 2 cents on why we probably will not be seeing these hotter limited edition Giulia variants in the United States and Canada. So ultimately, it comes down to government regulations with many of the changes. And I'm no expert, but I have an idea of some things. Let's start with the engine. The regular Giulia Quadrifoglio is rated at 505 horsepower in America or 510 metric horsepower. But these new variants are rated for 533 brake horsepower and 540 metric horsepower, courtesy of tuning from Alfa Romeo's works team Alto Delta. There is a small chance that the revised engine would need EPA and carb testing for emissions and the like. It is doable, but it would be a little bit discouraging to Alfa Romeo's corporate side. Let's jump to the interior, especially with the GTAm version. Looking inside, we see a ton of the familiar Giulia elements, but those elements are enhanced with Alcantara, deep bucket seats, a racing harness, and wait, is that a roll cage I see? That's going to be a tricky one. US regulations generally don't allow for factory roll cages. Now, this isn't the first time we've seen something like this, and different manufacturers handle this differently. Most famously, we see with Porsche with their 911 GT3, GT3 RS, and GT2 RS models most commonly roaming the streets with roll cages here in the US. Porsche gets around it by fitting the cars with those roll cages at the dealership. BMW was a little bit more clever for the BMW M4 GTS, as that one did leave the factory with a roll cage installed. For that one, BMW pulled a move similar to that of Ameritech with the US spec McLaren F1. Conceal what is not legal. Basically, BMW realized that by putting padding on the roll cage, it wasn't quite a roll cage anymore, at least in the eyes of the government, and that brought it into compliance. At the end of this video, I'll tell you how I learned that. Then there was the Jaguar XE SV Project 8. One of the options for that was a rear seat delete with a roll bar in its place. Here in America, what Jaguar did was that they... What do you mean there's no rear seat option? Oh, that's right. Actually, what Jaguar decided to do was to not even include that option of a rear seat delete with a roll bar here in America. So our Project 8 sedans were more like what sedans generally are, meaning the rear doors on that were not completely useless. On a related note, those stylish racing harnesses, those are safe to use when combined with the right setup for mounting, hence the scaffolding in the back, but those aren't legal in the US either, at least from the factory. The reasons I listed above are kind of doable enough for Alfa Romeo to work around and bring into American compliance. At worst, we would get the engine setup of the Giulia Quadrifoglio Racing Edition, which has slightly more power than the regular Quadrifoglio, and a slightly more normal interior without the racing gear. But the real hurdles lie on the exterior and slightly under the exterior with the structure. Both the Giulia GTA and GTAm variants come with carbon fiber in not just the hood, bonnet, and roof like the normal Quadrifoglio variants, but even in the wheel arches and some of the fenders. That's starting to affect a bit of the structure. Furthermore, the suspension geometry and materials are different too. On paper, everything I said looks a lot like what various aftermarket tuners who believe in more than just raw power would do. But remember, this is a factory manufacturer we are talking about, and in very recent times, there has been a car that required new crash tests after such changes from the factory. I'm talking about the $65,000 Subaru WRX STI S209. That car was equipped with not just more power compared to the regular STI, but a revised track, revised suspension, and a revised exterior with different aerodynamics. All of those changes, combined with the fact that technically the manufacturer for that is STI and not Subaru, meant that the car had to undergo new crash tests to be sold here. That was a tricky proposition for a car that was to have only 209 models built, all of them for the US market. The Alfa Romeo GTA and GTAm variants will only come in 500 examples combined, with each model getting 250 built. Currently, Alfa Romeo have no definitive plans to bring it over, meaning they probably intended all allocations to go elsewhere in the world. Even if they did bring it, how many could they actually bring? Sales of the regular Giulia Quadrifoglio haven't been all that great. It's easy to get deep incentives on new models. Something tells me the accountants at Fiat Chrysler Automotive have seen that and taken note on that, along with the example at BMW when they had to put deep discounts on the relatively expensive and similar BMW M4 GTS. But on the other hand, something with such significance like these new Alfa Romeo models could probably see some buyers if sold in limited quantities, much like what Jaguar did for their special project vehicles. Ultimately, pricing is not yet known on the Giulia GTA and GTAm, but it would be silly to expect it to be under $100,000 US. At a price of perhaps $130,000 US, would you rather get that, or would you rather get something like the Acura Honda NSX? Or perhaps would you rather try this option? Purchase the normal Giulia Quadrifoglio and then use some of the extra cash for track days to get the full experience out of the car. Or maybe, if you're an American who is super determined to have one, perhaps an option is to take the complicated steps of owning the GTA or GTAm in Mexico, then occasionally keeping it in America. Remember, Mexico actually gets a lot of European spec vehicles. I hope you enjoyed this more informative episode of 2 Cents on 4 Wheels, and I hope that gives you more insight as to the new Giulia GTA and GTAm variants that we were supposed to see revealed at this year's Geneva Motor Show that got cancelled due to the Swiss authorities' temporary ban on events with more than 1,000 people. And if you were curious as to more information on the BMW M4 GTS, such as the roll bar that I mentioned earlier, click to watch this video on when I interviewed an M4 GTS owner who bought his M4 GTS used from CarMax of all places. Thank you for watching.